Good morning, everyone. This is the day that the Lord has made, and we choose and we to rejoice and be glad in it. And I'm just grateful that you are here. I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful that everyone in the live studio audience is here. Won't you give God glory in it? Amen. That's really people here. That's not a clap track. There's real people here. And so just want to let you know that, again, yes, we do. We record every Saturday live in front of a live studio audience. And we welcome you to come to the studio if you want that in-person experience. We get a chance to communicate with each other and just, fellowship with each other. And it's a wonderful time. All right. So what you're getting is good. If you're home right now and you're in your bed, that's great. That's fine. That's wonderful. But when you're here face to face, it's even gooder. Amen. All right. So I am excited because I'm going to continue along the thought that I've been dealing with stewardship, and it's amazing. So there are times when I'm teaching where God will just kind of give me a little wink where I'll hear somebody else kind of teaching along the lines of what I've been teaching. But this past week and a half, I would say, it's been just amazing because it seems like anyone who I consider to have an ear, their ear to God's mouth, they're genuinely hearing. We've all been saying the same thing. And I remember saying this to you last year, that this was going to be a year where you were going to have to really learn how to steward. And I also mentioned partnership. We'll deal with partnership soon, but right now we got to deal with stewardship. For anybody who's going to really be successful in 2023 and beyond, not just 2024 and 2025, but I believe until the Lord comes, I believe you're going to have to really understand what it is to be a steward. And that's a great place to just go ahead and jump in. So we have not understood what it is to be a great steward, because oftentimes when we talk about stewardship, we only talk about it from an aspect of money and finances, right? Steward God's money, steward God's finances. But in reality, if we go, let's go all the way to Genesis chapter 1. Let's go back to the beginning. And I just remember I didn't pray for you all, but don't worry, I prayed already and have been praying all day. So you get to just jump into the river with us. But in Genesis chapter 1, and I'll just read verse 26, it says, "Then God said, let us make man," watch this, "in our image, according to our likeness." And then here's something that I think we miss sometimes. "Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over all the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps." I don't know. It was just something about studying this more and trying to get deeper into this, where I started to realize that this entire existence is about stewardship. God literally created this entire planet to give us the opportunity to steward what he had created. We find that in when he says, let them have dominion. Let, that means to allow, give them permission, right? Let them have dominion. Now, here's the critical thing about stewardship. Stewardship is all about managing. Stewardship is when I own nothing, I possess nothing of my own, but I have been given management responsibility for what somebody else owns. Stewardship is all about me taking responsibility for what you own and possess and have put into my possession, not to have it, but to manage it for you, to manage it on your behalf. I'm convinced that this is one of the reasons why a lot of people are not walking in the things that God has for us, or not receiving the things that God has for us, because we have not understood, and I believe this is going to unlock all of us. We have not understood that everything that God gives us is an opportunity for stewardship. If you realize this, then how you handle everything is going to change. And I'm starting to really see how even things like offering and almsgiving and tithing and all of this stuff, we have taught it, and let me just be really transparent here and translucent. Over the years, we have taught a lot of these things from a voodoo, mystical kind of way. and have not really understood why God was asking us to do those things. For instance, let's talk about tithing and almsgiving. Really, all that is just a matter of stewardship. What does he say? Tithing is what? Giving 10%, right? So we understand the concept of I'm taking 10% of what I have been given, right, and giving that back to God. But the mindset has to really be from the standpoint of stewardship to understand that, one, it was his in the first place. So if I got $100, that $100 was not mine, but I worked for it. Yeah, but you could not have even earned that if you did not have the favor for the job, if you did not have the job, if you did not have the strength, if you did not have the health, if you did not have the life. So no matter how you slice it and dice it, you can't take ownership for that, right? You have to understand that this was given to me from God. And as a result of that, all he's asking me for is 10% to come back to him, which is ultimately showing that, one, I can be trusted with his stuff to do what he's asked me to do with his stuff. We're going to see where that whole mindset needs to be in everything we do, every relationship, every opportunity, every business idea, everything. And let's go here. Let's go to Psalm 24. Stanza 1 and 2, read out a New Living Translation. It says, the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. Every single thing in it. The world and all its people belong to him. And then we can even read verse 2. It says, or stanza 2, for he laid the earth's foundation on the seas and he built it upon the ocean's depths. In other words, he's showing us the possession. He says the entire earth is the Lord's, is his, it belongs to him. And not just the earth, but actually the people in it and everything else that God created is his. It belongs to him. And so again, for us to really walk in this thing of stewardship and being a great steward of God's things, his possessions, everything that comes from God, we really got to pause for the cause and understand as deeply as we can and as clearly as we can that it all comes from God. It's all going back to God. And I am still going to have to give an account to God for what I did. Watch this, with his stuff. Somebody say amen to that. Okay. My life, my entire life was given to me by God. We all agree to that. My entire life was given to me by God. And because of that, then that means that my life is even in stewardship. And look how deep this goes. So then if God gave me my life to steward, then that means that I'm a manager of the life that he's given me. That means I do need to take care of my body. Oh, come on. I do need to watch what I put in my body. I do need to watch what I'm doing with my life. Why? Because if I'm not taken care of as a good steward and as a good manager of the life that he's given me, then what am I going to give back to him? You see how this thinking, it changes everything. The opportunities, you got an opportunity that you know that opportunity came strictly from God. You didn't possess the education, you didn't possess the know-how, you didn't possess anything, but some kind of way that opportunity landed into your hands, right? And then you give God glory for that. Lord, I thank you for giving me this opportunity. Well, guess what you have to do? You have to be a good manager and a good steward over the opportunity that God gave you. Yeah. All right. So these verses that I read, they all identify us that all of this stuff is God's possession and everything belongs to him. Everything belongs to him. And therefore, if everything belongs to him, we own nothing. I was getting ready to make a little detour. I'm going to hold off on that one unless it comes back up. And if it comes back up, then I'm going to hit it hard, hard and furious. But stewardship isn't about us owning anything. It's about us managing what belongs to another or to someone else on their behalf. And the greatest picture I think that I can find outside of Jesus Christ as a great steward is going to be Joseph. So we're going to delve into Joseph's stewardship. Now, let's go to Genesis chapter 39. This is good. Joseph is a great picture of godly stewardship for us. The Egyptian master could trust Joseph, watch this, with his goods because over time, Joseph proved faithful in his stewardship. Stewardship is about trust. Can you be trusted? God says, if I give you $100, can you be trusted to give me the 10 back? Right? So in Genesis chapter 39, verses 1 through 6 is where we're going. I'm reading out of the New Living Translation. And for those in studio, I'm going to say this out loud so y'all can pray for me. My goal is to, this week, make sure that the screens are up so you don't have to look behind you to see what was being read. That's my goal. Now, I'm giving you that as a good steward to, to pray that happens. But in Genesis chapter 39, verse 1, it says, when Joseph was taken to Egypt by the Ishmaelite traders, he was purchased by Potiphar, an Egyptian officer. Potiphar was captain of the guard for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Now, verse 2, the Lord was with Joseph. We love that. The Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything he did as he served in the home of his Egyptian master. So I've taught you that for many years. I've been consistent with that the reason why Joseph succeeded was because Joseph was what? God was with him, right? So I taught you about a Salah. Joseph was a Salah man, meaning that everything Joseph touched, everything that Joseph tried, watch this, everything that Joseph was put in charge of, God made it succeed. Whew, I feel it already. All right. And so in verse 3, it says, Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph. Now, how did Potiphar realize that God was with Joseph? Well, I'll show you one example. Joseph was a slave. Joseph, before him being a slave, was a sheep herder, right? So we don't have any record that indicates for us that Joseph knew anything about management. Yet when Joseph finds himself in a situation that he's never been in before, he's prospering and he's succeeding. So Potiphar is looking at this and saying, now, whatever I tell this man to do or whatever I give this man to do, some kind of way, what he does, it prospers. There's something on this boy. One thing that you should be able to see in your entire life, and I told you this, I said that this was not going to be a time where you're going to just keep believing God for miracles. No, your life is going to be beyond a miracle life. Your life is going to be a life of demonstration. Receive that in Jesus' name. I speak that over you and I speak that over myself. My life is going beyond just I need a miracle here and there. No, my entire life is a demonstration. My entire life is a testimony about how good God is and his capabilities in my life. My life is a demonstration. You put me in a situation that I've never been in before, I am guaranteed to prosper. Why? Because I came here with the blessing. I am blessed. I have the blessing of God on my life, and whatever I touch, it prospers. Amen to that. Woo. Yeah, I'm feeling it. And so back in verse 3, it says, Potiphar noticed this because you should be able to see the results and the effects of the blessing on your life and realize that the Lord was with him. Watch this. Potiphar realized that, noticed that God was with him, giving him success at everything he did. Verse 4, then this pleased Potiphar. I bet it did. So he soon made, look at this, it wasn't immediate, right? It was a progress or a process. He soon made Joseph his personal attendant. He put him in charge of his entire household, and watch this, and everything he owned. From the day Joseph was put in charge of his master's household and property, the Lord began to bless Potiphar's household. Why? For Joseph's sake. God, help me teach this. And all his household affairs ran smoothly, and his crops and his livestock flourished. Verse 6. So Potiphar gave Joseph complete administrative responsibility, not over some things, but over everything he owned. With Joseph there, he didn't worry about a thing except what kind of food to eat. Now, let me translate that over into what we're talking about. Potiphar gave Joseph complete authority and watch the word, stewardship over all that he owned. Who owned it? Potiphar. Who was in charge of it? Joseph. One more time. Who possessed it? Potiphar. Who owned it? Joseph. But here's the question. Why did Potiphar leave all of that stuff, all of his money, all of his accounts, all of his other slaves, all of his assets? Why would Potiphar put that in Joseph's hand? Because he can see, watch this, that Joseph wasn't just a good steward over the stuff. I'm getting ready to bless you. Get ready. But Joseph was an even better steward, watch this, of the blessing that God had given him. Let me say that. I don't know if y'all caught that. What Joseph was really stewarding was not necessarily just Potiphar's stuff. What he was stewarding was the blessing that was on him. Joseph recognized that anything that he did, whether he understood it or not, God was going to bless it. And so here's what he did. He did not, watch this, he didn't take advantage of it. He didn't misuse it. He didn't abuse it. You know, there's some people you can't give access to. Why? Because the moment you give somebody a little bit of money, what do they start doing? They start using it as, you don't have many people in your life that you know you can give your checkbook to. You don't have many people in your life that you know you can give your credit card to. I have a credit card that I use for, oh Lord, I don't want to embarrass them, but I have a credit card that I use for, it's my personal card, but you know, you can add somebody on the card and stuff like that for when people have to do stuff. But what you can also do is you can go into that card and you can put how much, right? You understand that? Why? Because you know, or I know, that I can't trust you with all out access. I can't trust you with just an open slate. No, I've got to, watch this. I've got to put some limitations on you. Now watch this though. I got to put these limitations on you because I know you. I've got to put some limitations on you because I know that if I give you too much too soon, you're going to end up not only messing yourself up, but you're going to mess me up. So I can only give you this much to steward. And if you show me, watch this, if you show me in the process that you can be trusted with the level of stewardship that I've given you, then I may give you some more. Does that make sense? So what we're seeing here, and I know we talk about the blessing of God, but I want you to understand that really what's going on is that Joseph is being a better manager of what God has given him, even more than what Potiphar has put him in responsibility for. So let me show it like this. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 15:10. Paul says it a little bit better. Paul says, but whatever I am now, it is because, in other words, the result is because God poured out his special favor on me and not without results. For I have worked harder than any of the other apostles, yet it was not I, but God who was working through me by his grace. Complete Jewish Bible says it like this, but by God's grace I am what I am. And his grace towards me was not in vain. On the contrary, I have worked harder than all of them, although it was not I, but the grace of God with me. So take that back into Joseph's life. Joseph realized that the grace of God was on him. Joseph realized that the blessing of God was on him. And rather than, watch this, mishandling the blessing, rather than mishandling the grace, he says, no, I am going to honor the grace that God has given me. And we know this is true. We know this is true because when Potiphar's wife starts seeing Joseph and she's, hey, yo, you young and you strong and hey. Joseph says, how can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? Potiphar was not his focus. So what am I trying to tell you? The result that Potiphar recognized came by Joseph being a great steward over what God had given him, which was favor. Here's a question. Here's a question for you. How many people have gotten a great job a great job. A great job. But because you didn't understand that God had given you that job to steward, to manage that opportunity, that job, that position, and you just, you did, how many people do you know? Because I know none of y'all listening to me right now, either in live or none of y'all have done this, but you know somebody, I'm speaking by faith, who totally squandered an opportunity. They didn't understand that opportunity that was given to them was not theirs to squander. That was God saying, hey, I'm giving you something that if you can just handle this the right way, and let me talk about me. Hindsight is 2020. I can look back now and think and see many opportunities where I was like, wow, if I could do that all over again, I would do that totally different. Now, here's the problem. When you live long enough and you have enough of those, I wish I could do better, then you start to realize that those opportunities don't come back around like they used to. So what you have to do, every opportunity going forward, you got to make sure that you maximize it. This is critical for you going forward because your success that God wants to give into your life is going to be dependent upon how well you understand stewardship. So Potiphar now leaves everything into Joseph's hands. You know why? Because when you're a great steward, you don't have to be micromanaged. Did y'all catch what I just said? When you're a great steward, you don't have to be micromanaged. Trust is at the center of stewardship. And when the owner trusts the steward, he leaves his goods with the hands of the stewards and he knows it's going to be all good. Does it mean that you're not held accountable? Does not mean that somebody doesn't come back and watch you from time to time. But when you are a good steward, people trust you. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. So if you can't be trusted with the results of being blessed, now how many of you are blessed? If you're blessed and you know you're blessed, make some noise real quick. All right, come on, type it in the screen. I know I'm blessed. Type that. I know I'm blessed. All right, now watch this now. So then if that means then, if you are blessed, that means results should be following your life. If you're blessed, that means results should be following your life. Whatever you claim to be blessed at, whatever you know that you are blessed in, or you know that God is with you on, then that means that the sign of the blessing is that results happen. One thing, and I say this because I know what I'm blessed to do. I know that when I teach, whether I feel like teaching or don't feel like teaching, I know that when I operate in my gifting, when I operate in who I am, when I operate in the thing that I'm blessed to do, I know results follow. I don't even got to think about that. But that means then I have to be responsible and manage the results that the blessing brings, because if I mismanage it, then I'm ultimately showing God that, one, I don't respect what he's given me. And I'm showing him that, two, I really can't handle what he gave me, which is in the front to his blessing. Luke chapter 10 or Luke chapter 16. Luke chapter 16, verse 10. This is a principle. Type that in the comments for me. This is a principle. It's not just a verse. It's a principle. And the principle is simply this. If you are faithful in little things, look what it says. You will be faithful in large ones. I'll just read that A part again. If you are faithful, if you are, not if you will be, but if you are faithful in little things, you will be faithful in large things. But if you are dishonest in little things, you will be dishonest with greater responsibilities. And in verse 11, it says, and if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven? What are the true riches of heaven? Well, we talked about that. The true riches of heaven is the blessing that we're talking about. Man, listen, when you know that you're blessed and you're walking in that blessing, you know that even though you may not have the money to get something done, but you got the favor, that the favor will step in and do exceeding abundantly above all that you can ask or think. The favor on you will actually open doors that money will never open. Sometimes, and I want you to, it's one thing to ask God for money, and it's one thing to ask God for finances, but why don't you do this? If you feel like God is really putting it on your heart to do something, then don't just ask God for money. Ask the Lord to help you realize that you've got a blessing on you. Watch this, that you don't have enough room to receive it. Y'all remember that? That you're so blessed that you need multiple doors and multiple windows for that blessing to even be able to flow. All right, so keep on reading. So let me go back there. So, but if you're dishonest in little things, you'll be dishonest with great responsibilities. And if you're untrustworthy about worldly wealth, then who will trust you with the true riches? Verse 12 says, and if you are not faithful in other people's things, why should you be trusted with your own? Really, what he's saying is he's saying that if you don't understand that even in somebody else's stuff, you still depended upon the grace of God to make you successful, then who's going to give you your own stuff? He's dealing with character. He says that if you are faithful in the little, you're going to be faithful in the large things. You know why? Because he's saying it's not about what you're doing. It's really about who you are. See, here's the difference between somebody who does faithful things versus a person who is a faithful person. Faithful people will do the things that are necessary to be done as long as it benefits them. Yeah, I'm gonna let y'all. Because it's a character trait. But people who are genuinely faithful, and watch this is for leaders. You can always tell who's going to really be faithful, because when you give a person a little task to do, they do that little task as if it is the biggest task that they've ever had. But if you are dealing with people who says, well, I can't do that, I'm not called to that. I'm called to other things. The Lord has called me to this, and the Lord has called me to that. That's why Jesus went and purposefully did not get the Sanhedrin. He did not get the Pharisees and the Sadducees. There was a reason why Jesus literally went to the people who were uneducated and belittled by all of the people in their community. You know why? Because he's saying, listen, if I show all of these Sadducees who I really am, man, they're going to try to use that to build their own wealth. They're going to use that to get their own gain. He said, no, I'm going to go to the people that nobody knows. I guarantee you that if Jesus trusted the gospel to the church folks of his day, we would not have had the gospel today. Wow, where did that come from? So faithfulness isn't about what you do. Faithfulness is who you are. And he's saying that if God can show you that you can be trusted in the little thing, and I feel some help coming on. This is why for many of you, you get mad at God because it seems like God has put a cap on you. You feel like God has put a lid on you. Well, here's the lid. Here's what you need to understand. The lid is really probably just a test of faithfulness. There are many tests of God. We need to deal with that one day, not today. But one of those tests is a time test. One of those tests is a word test. One of those other tests is a faithfulness test. Time test is, can you be patient? I'm tired of waiting. Yeah, but see, that's not what he asks us for. He doesn't say he wants us to be tired of waiting. He says, can you hupomone? Can you stay up under? That's a faithfulness test or a time test. Right? The word test. Do you believe the word to be truthful, even when it seems like everything against you or is happening against the word that you have spoken? Right? Can you believe the word no matter what? But a faithfulness test is, can you be faithful with the little things? And this is where a lot of people miss it. A lot of people miss it because you think, or they get into this mindset that when God has put something into their hands that is small and insignificant seeming, that well, I know God has so much more for you. He does have so much more for you. Hear me. God has so much more for you. And guess how it's going to manifest? By you being faithful. Church folks need to hear this more than anything. Because some of the most unfaithful people you're going to find. Not here. I'm just saying. If you are faithful in little things, then you will be faithful in large things. All right, let me keep going. So stewards, watch this. This is going to be good. Stewards don't need to be constantly told what to do, when to do it, or even how to do it. Here's a thing as we transition to this next point. So you're the faithful person, and you know that whatever God gives you, you're going to be faithful in it. You're faithful in praying. You're faithful in giving. You're faithful in worshiping and studying. You're faithful in all of these things. But it just for you say, okay, I don't know, I'm being faithful, but I just don't see like God is still doing what I need God to do. Let me encourage you. God is getting ready to blow your mind. But you have to understand this thing called stewardship. You have to understand it. And there's some things about stewardship that and to be honest with you, that I'm even coming to light on. For instance, when it comes to stewardship, let me see if I can give you a great example. Let's say I had a nice car. And let's say that I was going off island. And I realized, and I'll use Pastor Cheryl. And I said, okay, Pastor Cheryl, I'm leaving off island for about 2 months. And I have this nice car. I don't want my nice car just sitting around doing nothing. Here's the keys to my nice car. I'm putting the keys into your hand. What did I just do? I just gave her stewardship over my nice car. What didn't I do? I didn't tell her that she could go only in these places. You can only go here. You can only go there. No. Here's the keys to the car. Now, here's the question. It's rhetorical. I just want you to think about it. Why did I give her that? The trust, right? Why didn't I give her a whole bunch of commands? You can't go here. You can't go here. No, because So watch this. So the trust to give her stewardship over my stuff, watch this, means that I've already done the examination and I've already done the evaluation. By the time God puts something in your hand to steward, he's already evaluated you. I'm going to prove it to you. Let's go to Matthew 25. Lord, help me teach this. In Matthew chapter 25, verse 14, Jesus says, again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. He said, if you want to understand how heaven is, if you want to understand the kingdom of heaven, if you want to understand the gospel, guess what? I'm going to use this as an illustration to show you what that is. He says, he called, Jesus said, he called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. Now, according to what we understand about stewardship, we understand that the money that he's about to give out does not belong to the people called stewards. It's not their money. Whose money is it? It's the master's money. Okay? How long do they have access to his money? Until he returns. Now, verse 15, we'll just keep reading it. Look what it says. Verse 15 says, he gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last. But here's what I want you to understand. Dividing it in proportion to what? Then he left on his trip. So he divided the money that he was giving out according to, watch this, what he already knew they could handle. So why is that important? Because what you have to understand about stewardship is that stewardship is not about you proving that you can perform. One more time. Stewardship is not about you proving to the master, oh, I can do this. Let me prove to you that I can handle this. No, the reason why you have it in your hand is because he already examined you. He already evaluated you. He already saw that you were at least faithful enough to handle what he's putting in your hands. How many of you seeing this? See, so we've understood stewardship as, well, you know what? I got to take this, watch this. I've got to take this little bit to prove to God that I can handle it. No, God was already like, I'm telling you that you can handle this by giving it to you, because if you couldn't handle it, I never would have put it in your hands in the first place. Y'all getting this? Y'all just thinking. Okay. So stewardship is not a test of capability. Stewardship is not a test to see if you have the goods to be a good steward. Stewardship is really about God giving you an opportunity to demonstrate, watch this, your faithfulness in what he's given you, not your performance. Stewardship is not a test of capability. Stewardship is a door of opportunity to your next level. Lord, I want the next level. Lord, I want this. Lord, I'm praying for this. Well, here's the thing. Watch this. The thing that you're praying for and believing God for is already, how do I say that? Encapsulated in the thing that he's already put into your hand. I'm going to say that one more time. I'm going to say it like this. Let's just say I was the kind of leader who said, you know what? I want a big church. I want a big church. Okay, this is good. I got a few people in here, but now I want a lot more. If I was the kind of person that went after that, I wouldn't have to pray for that. Uh-oh. What do you mean you wouldn't have to pray for that? I wouldn't have to pray for that. You know what I'd have to do? I just have to steward what's already in my hands. I need to slow down. I want to make sure y'all get this. So again, the example, if I gave my car keys to Cheryl and I said, you know, it's in your hands, she doesn't have to call me every time she wants to go to the beach. She doesn't have to call me every time she needs to go shopping. I need to go grocery shopping. Now watch this. What would that do to me if every time she had to use the vehicle, she called me? That would be annoying to me, right? Now watch this. Now we say that about God, but how do we think we are when we go to God? Lord, can I do this? Lord, I need to do this. Lord, I need to. And he's like, I gave that to you to do. Why are you praying to me about this? Because we haven't understood that being a steward does not mean that I have to be a fearful slave. That to be a good steward means that what I have to do is I've got to put some understanding that the only reason why I have this to steward in the first place is because, watch this, he already knew what I could do with it. So watch this, stewardship is not about me proving to God what I can do. Stewardship is God showing me the capabilities that I actually do have. Stewardship is God showing me that, listen, you don't know, watch this, what would you do if I gave you $1 million legitimately? Stewardship is the answer to that question. Stewardship is God giving you the answer to that question. And the question is this, well, who could I be if God anointed me? Who could I be if God graced me? Who could I be if God gave me the opportunity? And instead of answering that in some ethereal, mystical way, he says, I'm going to show you. Here's the blessing. Now use the blessing to discover who I've called you to be. Are y'all getting this? Y'all sure y'all getting this? I want to make sure because I don't want to move too far. I got 8 minutes and 51 seconds, 49 seconds, 48. No, I'm just playing. So God has given you this thing that we've been talking about called the blessing, the favor of God. Here's what you have to do. You've got to learn and understand that favor God gave you is for you to steward. It's his blessing. It is his by ownership and by possession. But now he's given it to you because he actually wants you to do something with it. Everything that God has put into your hand has the same principle as we see in Genesis chapter 1. Be fruitful and multiply. When we see this in Genesis chapter 1, right, verse 26, he says, be fruitful and multiply, or Genesis chapter 1 and verse 27 and 28, yeah, around in there. He's literally, that is the heart of God. God literally wants you to multiply whatever he's put into your hand. But here's the thing. It's not something that is going to be hard for you to do. It is something that you just have to do. Let's go to verse 19. Verse 19. So after a long time, this is Matthew 25:19 for those. After a long time, their master returned from his trip, and he called them to give an account of how he had used the money. So whatever it is that God has given you to steward, this ministry, God is, and let me just pause for the cause and bring elucidation to this. So numbers have never been the thing that I'm looking for. Numbers haven't. And I think I told this to the leader. I think I told you all this last week or Wednesday in our class. That my heart and my passion is not so much the bodies that God has given me in terms of accumulating numbers. It is, well, let me say it like this. It's quality over quantity, right? So my gifting is teaching. I'm a gifted teacher. I'm not, bigging up myself. That's what my gift is. I am a gifted teacher. Now, the heart of every teacher is to make sure that the students not just get the information, but that they understand the information, they learn the information, and watch this, that they can apply the information to their life. No real math teacher just is satisfied with you just knowing 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 9 is 81. No real math teacher is comfortable or satisfied with you just understanding that, watch this, by rote or by memory. They want to make sure that you understand why 9 times 9 is actually 81. I had a Spanish teacher, I tell off on myself. I had a Spanish teacher in my second year of Spanish, Senora Breno. She learned something about me. Matter of fact, this happened with my music teacher too. Let me use my music teacher. Let's use that one. That's a little more comical. But my music teacher, Miss Joyce Quilling, she never would teach me piano. She was always teaching me horns, saxophone, clarinet, and all of that, right? So when she discovered that I could play piano, which my family already knew, the church already knew, but when she discovered I could play the piano, then she decided, okay, I need to give this kid some piano lessons. Now watch this. She brings me over to her house for private lessons. She has some sheet music in front of me that she wants to test. She wants to test how well I can sight read. So what I did was I asked her, could you play it at least once? She plays it one time, and guess what I do? Follow right behind her and play it note for note. She's like, wow, kid, you got some great sight reading chops. Why? Because she wasn't expecting me to play it that well. So then she takes another piece of music. It was Mozart's Sonata in C. She puts it in front of me, and she just puts it up. And I said, can you play that for me one time? She says, no, just play it. Now I went from being a virtuoso to why? Because as a real music teacher, she realized that it wasn't that I was sight reading the music. She realized that my gifting was my ear. If you play it for me and I hear it, I could play it back to you. So, from that time on, what she would not do? She would not play the song for me. Unfortunately, that's kind of like so for me as a teacher, it's not enough for me to just teach you something and then you go back and say, well, Pastor Jay said. I don't like it when you say that. Pastor Jay said, no, no, the word said, and you studied it for yourself. That's why the quality that I look for is I teach you how to do what I do. So what am I doing? That's my stewardship. My stewardship isn't numbers. My stewardship is making sure that you actually understand this stuff. Now watch this. I don't have to pray about, let me just be honest. So we're in this gathering right now. I didn't have to pray and ask God for permission to do this. I didn't have to go and fast and pray and ask the Lord, will you just please bless it that when I open this up on Saturdays, God, will you just please bless it that people will come? I didn't have to pray for that. You know what all I had to do? I just had to do it. Everybody say, just say this, just do it. One more time, just do it. Y'all type that in there. See, because here's the thing, by you sitting back and praying for every single thing, praying for every single direction, because you're trying to be spiritual, is not actually making you spiritual. No, God does not need you to pray about every single thing. And I understand that. Yes, we do pray. Yes, we do get direction. But there are some things that God put into your, when was the last time you had to pray about if you should eat? And some of us need to pray about it. Let me not go there. You didn't have to pray about that. What? There was a need that came up. There was an impulse that came up, and what did you do? You met the need, or you fed the impulse. That's what stewardship is all about. So let me keep reading, because I don't think I got to that. So verse 19. So after a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give an account of how he had used their money. He didn't listen. He says, I gave you something to do something with. Did you do something with it? Verse 20, the servant to whom he had entrusted the 5 bags of silver came forward with the 5 more and said, Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest. No, he gave you 5 bags of silver and told you to do something with it. You chose to invest it. And he says, and I have earned 5 more. The master, watch this, the master was full of praise. Well done, good and faithful servant. Here's the words. You have been faithful. Everybody say faithful. One more time, say faithful. You have been faithful in handling this small amount. So now I will give you what? Many more responsibilities. Why? Because if you're faithful in the small things, you're going to be faithful. So are you seeing what the test was? The true test? The true test wasn't money management. My God. The true test wasn't his fiduciary responsibility. The true test was faithful. Are you going to be faithful in a little bit? Let me keep going, because I feel like I'm screaming and preaching to myself. So now I will give you, I am preaching to myself. So now I will give you many more responsibilities. He says, let's celebrate. Let's celebrate. See, because we read that scripture and we think that the master, oh God, help me. We think that the master was excited that he was getting 5 more or an ROI on his investment. That's not why he was celebrating. Watch this. Can I tell you that didn't even surprise him? See, when God gives you stewardship, what you are capable of does not even surprise him. Why? That's why he gave it to you in the first place. So again, I give Cheryl the keys to my car. I tell her you have stewardship responsibility over my vehicle. Am I going to get surprised that she said, I went to the store today in your car? You want a cookie for that? Okay. I get the hint. All right. All right. Verse 23. The master, verse 22. So then the servant who had received the 2 bags of silver came forward and said, Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 2 more. Watch this. The master said, well done, my good and faithful servant. Same applaud. You have been faithful in handling this small amount. So now I will give you many more. Wait a minute. Why did he give the same blessing to the 2 that he gave to the one with the 10 or the 5? Because it wasn't about the money. It wasn't about the thing that he put into his hands. It was, will you be faithful in this? And the faithfulness, watch this, the faithfulness got both of them the same praise. Verse 24, I got to go because I'm out of time already, but I got to give you this. The servant with the 1 bag of silver, who had the least to lose, the least to mess up, said, Master, I knew you were a harsh man. Now watch this, because this is something that we miss. And thumbs up. Am I good? I see batteries are good. We gonna make it happen. All right, cool. All right, let me get through this. All right, so we missed the real point why the master was mad. We missed the real point why the master was mad at this. The servant with the one bag of silver came and said, Master, I knew you are a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. Wait a minute. Now he starts telling the master. Now that's some chutzpah. That's some. The man gives you money and he's coming back and he's excited for everybody else. But now you come back, watch this, with this excuse. Everybody say excuse. Type in the comments, excuse. Now here's the sad thing about that excuse, because in verse 25, now the truth comes out. I was afraid. I was afraid. I was afraid I would lose your money. So I hid it in the earth. And look, here's your money back. All he had to do, and the Lord tells him that, he says, out of your own mouth, I'm going to condemn you. Out of your own mouth, you're going to be condemned. Because watch what he's saying is, he's saying, if you were really worried about me being a harsh man, if you were really worried about me being this kind of person, then you know what? You would have at least done this. So the rebuke of the master was not that he was afraid. The rebuke of the master is that he allowed his fear to stop him from even trying. He said, you didn't even try. And that's the rebuke for a lot of us. That's why I'm preaching this so passionately, because God had already given you something to steward. And the rebuke is not going to be whether or not you failed. Oh, God, help me. The rebuke is not going to be whether or not you failed or succeeded, because really what he's trying to tell you is that even if you tried it, you're going to succeed one way or the other. No, the sin is not your failure. The sin is not whether or not tens of thousands of people come or whether or not you bless. That's not the failure. The failure is, did you even try? No, I didn't try. Why? Because I didn't go to Bible school. Excuse. Did you try? No, I didn't try. Why? Because I didn't go to business school for this. Did you try? No, I didn't try. So you mean to tell me that God gave you the desire, God gave you the passion, God gave you the opportunity, God gave you the resources, and none of them were good enough to help you to see that, you know what? If I just try, maybe he'll give me the capability and the capacity as well. The guy with the least to lose let fear stop him from even trying. And then his fear now, to justify himself, he starts blaming the master. Well, see, let me show you, real world stuff. Well, you didn't give me what you gave somebody else to do. You didn't give me all of the help. You didn't give me all of the people. You didn't give me all of this stuff. You didn't give me all of that. And he's saying, listen, really, if you had to utilize what I gave you to do, the people and everything else that you said I didn't give you was already in there. Because when I give you the stewardship, I give you everything you need. But you got to do it. You got to use it. And this is not just for leaders. This is for all of God's people, because we've all been given something to steward. We've all been given something to steward. Stewardship means that I manage and I work. I utilize what God has put in my hand. I make it happen. I work it. Somebody type that in the comments. I work it. Come on, say it again. I work it. And that's the problem. It's not going to work itself. Matter of fact, real quick before I go and before the camera cuts off, go back to that 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 15. And give me verse 10 and 11. Please. I just threw you on the spot. I know. And this is, the New Living Translation. Ready? Okay, good. So he says, but whatever I am now, it is all because God poured out his special favor on me and not without results. Whatever you put your hands to, God's blessing is going to make it have results. Did y'all miss that? Whatever you by faith put your hands to, God is going to make it have results. Because grace cannot operate without producing results. Woo! Jesus. I got to say that one more time. Grace cannot operate without producing results. And so he says, but whatever I am now is all because God poured out his special favor on me, grace, and not without results. Watch this. He says, for I have done what? Worked harder than any of the other apostles. In other words, Paul is saying, I recognize God's grace on me. I recognize God's hand on me. I recognize that God had given me a work to do. I recognize that he gave me stewardship. And what did I do? I worked that thing. And I worked harder than any of the other apostles. Yet I realized that it wasn't me. It wasn't my strength. It wasn't my understanding. Come on, I'm trying to get you unlocked. It wasn't my strength. It wasn't my understanding. It wasn't my education. It wasn't my know-how. It wasn't any of that. Really, it was God who was working through me by his grace. That's all I needed. I'm sorry. I asked you for 11, but that's all I needed. I'm sorry. Shame on me. I didn't steward that properly. Let me go ahead and be a good steward. So it makes no difference, verse 11. Makes no difference whether I preach or they preach, for we all preach the same message you have already believed. Okay, now I feel it. Okay. So what is stewardship? Stewardship, watch this. Stewardship is all about you recognizing what God has put into your hand and you maximizing it to the fullest. Stewardship is God showing you your capability. Stewardship is God looking at you and saying, you know what? I bet you with $1 million that you would be able to do this. And so then he gives you that to steward. And all you have to do is just be faithful. That's all he's looking for. God's not looking for your performance. He's looking for your faithfulness. One more time. God's not looking for your performance. He's looking for your faithfulness. Let me say that one more time. God's not looking for your performance. He's looking for your faithfulness. Were you faithful when you had the crowds? Were you faithful when you had the smallness? Were you faithful when you had a bank load of money? And were you faithful when you had no money? Father, I just praise you right now, and I thank you, Lord. I believe, God, that you are utilizing this to unlock your people, that you're giving us the courage and you're giving us the boldness to at least try. In 2023, God, you gave us too many surviving testimonies for us to not steward that experience properly. We survived. We lived through, we came out of, because there's something else that we have to steward, and that is whether we steward the testimony, whether we steward just being thankful, whatever it is, Father. I pray that you just unlock your people, that they take inventory of their own life and say, you know what, now God has done too much and he's given me too much for me to just sit here and not do anything with it. So I thank you right now, Father, that we see the results of this word. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. I pray that you are all blessed by that. I pray that you understood it and that you got it. And if you know what, go back and keep praying and asking the Lord to unlock you, show you even more, because 2023 is going to be a year where we have to steward what God has for us. All right. I love you all. God bless you. Goodbye.